Okay, we're going to pick right back up from some little
Mhm.
technical difficulties, but now we're there. So, Dr. Leyser, you were talking about kind of this triangulation, if you will, between Henry and his own, let's just call it internal political things that he has to worry about. And then you've got Gregory over here who's already excommunicated him, and now you've got these these guys in Saxony who are
Mhm.
a part of Henry's political problems, right? So that was kind of where we left things.
Exactly so. And so, uh, what happens, yeah, between Henry's excommunication in February 1076 and then the Canossa meeting in January of 1077, so 11 or so months later,
Mm,
is a kind of dance kind of around the points of the triangle, um, with the Saxon nobility, the rebels, and Gregory looking to make common cause against Henry,
mm,
and Henry looking to kind of prevent that from happening. Um, and to kind of say to the bishops, okay, 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 I'll play nice with Gregory if let's kind of calm this down. Remember, he was mean to you. Stick with me. And to the Saxon nobility, and no, don't worry, I'm going to get, don't overdo it. But they don't trust him.
mm,
And yeah, cannot. There's a plan at the end of 1076 for Gregory to go north to meet the rebels, which Henry doesn't want. So basically, he comes south
mm,
with an army, and kind of joins up with he's got Italian allies who don't like Gregory,
mm,
um, and prevents Gregory from crossing the Alps. And when Gregory kind of heads to Canossa, this fort in northern Italy held by Matilda of Tuscany, whom we also need to talk about, he's
mm,
actually moving south. He's backing away from going north to meet the rebels. And Henry has him on the run effectively. Um,
mm,
because again, and the Pope has who is it who says the Pope has no battalions, but he's right. For the Pope to move, Pope is Bishop of Rome. In Rome, he's a figure to reckon with. But when it comes to just kind of moving around Italy, um, he doesn't have people he can really call on. He
mm.
depends upon ultimately on Henry for safe passage, either north or south, and or on Matilda, his ally, but who is also related. She's a cousin of Henry's.
Ah,
Yeah, twist of the plot there. So at Canossa, so just in terms of the kind of situation,
yes.
Henry's got the initiative. He's got Gregory not meeting up with the rebels, still south of the Alps, and actually on retreat, moving away from going north and kind of basically kind of back to Rome with his tail a little bit between his legs. And so that's the point at which both sides realize, hang on, we're both a little bit exposed here. Let's do a deal.
Mm,
Um, and so there are talks that Matilda, in conjunction with Henry's wife Bertha and Henry's mother-in-law Adelaide, so powerful women here.
mm,
Abbot of Cluny, Hugh, is also involved. In the kind of end of 1076, January 1077, how can we stage a reconciliation that's going to basically allow everyone to both, I mean, yeah, not to get killed and to save face. Um,
mm.
and that's the product of those negotiations is the penance in the snow outside Canossa. So,
Ah,
various accounts, does he stand for 3 days continuously? Not clear. Does he kind of, put in a couple of hours kind of every day for 3 days? But there he is. In most accounts agree. He's in the snow, in a hair shirt, doing penance. He's looking to be admitted into the castle, and there is archaeology. I mean, the descriptions are accurate, and there's an inner courtyard that he gets into, and then
mm.
eventually he's admitted from the inner courtyard into the church, the chapel at Canossa itself, and
Okay.
prostrates himself. on the ground and is forgiven, is excommunication sentence is undone by the Pope. Um, um, and I mean, okay, I think we need to be careful. I mean, it's all staged, but that
Wow.
doesn't mean it's fake. And I think we kind of have to understand kind of the Middle Ages here. And so when people make these gestures, whether they feel it or not is that we might want to know, is he really
Right.
sorry? That's not the right question. The question is what he's willing to perform this, and
Mhm.
Gregory is willing to kind of do his part. And in that sense, it's a ritual of that everyone's agreed on, and everyone say plays their part, and everybody wins. Um, that's uh, you know that's how it works as a scene. Um,
Yeah, because Gregory, I'm assuming, is not willy-nilly willing just to go rescind, excommunications. He understands what a big deal that is, but he also
mhm,
understands, if I'm willing to compromise and do things differently, and you, Henry, understand, as you're saying, there's mutual benefit for all of us,
mhm,
and we'll go forward and do this, but that doesn't mean that I'm just willing to go give it to the next guy that I that I excommunicate. I mean, it doesn't mean that
mhm,
there's no weight to it, or that excommunication
mhm.
is just like, yeah, I'll just give you a little blessing and you go say some Hail Marys and we'll get on our business. That's not what we're
Mhm.
talking about.
Right, right. No, this is no, absolutely. This is not. It's not casual. This is
Mm,
high political theatre. There's a huge amount at stake. A lot of people are watching. Um, so it needs to go right.
mm,
And they're committed in that sense. That yeah, the commitment is not. It's not about kind of feeling sorry or feeling forgiving. The commitment is to kind of putting on the show and making it work, and they do that. And there's and yeah, and in a sense, it again important to remember the kind of this sense of a default setting that the Pope and the Emperor or the King should be cooperating. So
mhm.
Canossa is staged as a restoration of the kind of like we just had our tech fail. We're back. We're connected again. The show
Right.
is we're humming
Yes.
and we're singing from the same hymn sheet. Let's get back to the work of purifying the church. I mean, it doesn't quite turn out that way, um, because I mean, because yeah, the Saxon rebels are still out there,
Mm,
um, and Gregory is still. I mean, bless him, for better or for worse. I mean, he has and I think the German bishops are right to observe this. He has an intemperate streak that means
mm,
that he's very volatile. Um, and so the kind of the peace that breaks out is a temporary one, and they're going to go back, and it's going to actually get more polarized. Before you get to the end of the decade, there's an anti-pope and an anti-emperor. They each pick a rival for each other, if you like.
mhm.
Um, and so and that's going to keep going until Gregory's death, as we could mention in Exile in 1085, that when kind of that changes things, and you get people who are more committed to compromise than certainly Gregory is. Um, and then, as I say, meanwhile, you've got I mean, starting with Gregory himself, and then the various chroniclers of the dispute. You've got the kind of Canossa is immediately mythologized. Um,
Mm,
so if you like, at the time, it's a successful piece of kind of mutually agreed upon diplomacy that holds for a moment, then it blows apart, and then the kind of rival storytelling starts. Is pretty much what happens. Um,
wow. Well, we mentioned Matilda. I mean, as what is still,
yes,
it's so fascinating. Who was, because it was her castle, right? Her
it's her
fortress, her
castle.
her castle, where she
Yeah.
actually Gregory comes to hide out and seek some protection on that way back to Rome after trying to connect with the Saxony rebel,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
And she's related to Henry.
She's related to Henry. Yeah, they kind of they share how I worked it out. I can never keep saying they share great grandfather, I think. Or
Okay.
yeah. Um, how many generations did it go? Hang on. One, two. Yeah, great grandfather. Um,
But if you got your
um,
own castle, it's not like you're a serf, shearing sheep somewhere on the back.
oh,
I mean, she's got some
definitely not.
got
She's
some impetus. I
yeah,
mean, some.
and and again, stereotypes of the Middle Ages is that kind of women are damsels in distress, kind of at the mercy either of kind of knights or of priests. But no, she is a powerful woman, and you don't want to mess
Hmm.
with her. Um,
Hmm.
and her family is in northern Italy. Her family is immensely powerful. So she's at one of the places that Canossa is commemorated in the sense of kind of neither Henry's nor Gregory's narrative, but it's in the life of Matilda that's going to be written in the start of the 12th century. Um, and her biographer says, well, the reason that peace was made was because of her intervention.
Ah,
And that again, who's to gainsay that? It absolutely on her in her fort, um, and wouldn't have happened unless she'd kind of in some sense been involved in setting it up. Um,
sure.
um, yeah. So again, kind of it's remembered as Henry IV, Gregory VII, but you've got the Saxon rebels up there in the north, you've got Matilda there in Italy. There's lots of other kind of players and interlocking pieces that make it. Um,
Wow, what a fascinating time, and I'm so glad that you're making this interesting to follow and conversational in such a way that I don't have to go read, 23 biographies or historical accounts to be able to at least kind of sum up and understand where this. But at when the even after kind of
yeah.
the show and the showdown,
hmm
right? I mean, even
hmm
after all
Nice.
of that settles, and even, but how does the church then use this later as they interact with other kings and other places, and the whole idea of simony that certainly doesn't go
Yeah.
away, and certainly
Yeah.
other things about the church paying taxes, or any other
hmm
number of things that will come in this um, uh, kind of a kabuki dance, for lack of a better way. There, right? That happens
Kabuki's. Yeah.
between the church and surely the church uses this as a hey, hey,
hmm
hey. Ultimately,
hmm
remember, hair shirt
Yeah.
in the snow. Don't make us have to go there,
Yeah.
King such and such again. And I may be
Uh-huh.
oversimplifying that, but it's
No, but that's very good. And yeah, underwater kabuki, I think, is exactly what we're dealing with. Um, um, yeah, okay. Often thought, and you can read in many of these books, that the so-called investiture controversy
hmm
um, is the reason there's a confrontation at Canossa. Investiture is how you appoint a priest, in particular a bishop, and you invest them with the signs of their office, the ring that signifies marriage to the church, and the
hmm
staff, which signifies being a shepherd. The movement for church reform, Gregorian reform, will come to condemn investiture of bishops by lay people.
hmm hmm
That is not yet on the table at Canossa.
Okay.
But after Canossa, exactly as you were saying, it does come to be part of the agenda. So in the so-called contest, the investiture contest is not a cause, but it is a consequence
Ah.
of Canossa. And Gregory and his successors start to say from the late 1070s onwards, no, your lay hands cannot be involved in the conferring of clerical office. There's a purity law that we need to establish here, and a boundary we
hmm
need to set. And so, yeah, and we can see Gregory kind of, yeah, from late 1077 onwards, saying, okay, these are the new rules. Um, and that will go. That argument will run deep into the 12th century, settled at this place, Worms, that I mentioned before, where Henry had his initial condemning Gregory the Seventh Synod. The Concordat there in the 1020 in the sorry 1120s is that there's compromise between, if you like, church and state. There will not be lay hands on the ring and the staff that you invest the bishop with, but it can be in the presence of a lay ruler. Um, so which, again, in terms of the kind of hard politics of it, gives lay
Hmm.
rulers continued influence over who
Hmm.
gets to be a bishop because it's yeah in their presence, i.e. they're kind of leaning in, pick this guy. Um, but in terms of the ritual performance, and again, we need this sense of things being staged, that the ritual is not empty, it matters. The ritual must be that priestly hands confer on new priests those signs of office. So yeah, so from Canossa does mark the start of a campaign about investiture that will mark the priesthood out and bishops out as a different kind of person. Just and we're here with the way that a sacrament changes people.
Hmm.
Baptism or extreme unction changes the person, and investiture is becomes a ritual of that order, thanks to this encounter.
Wow. Wow. What an interesting time frame. What an interesting way for all of that. But I mean, won't doesn't Henry how much after the whole episode that we're talking about here, how
Mhm.
much longer is it really generally before Henry actually becomes emperor? And then once he becomes emperor, does the Pope, pull a whole Charlemagne, Leo,
Uh,
redo, or is that
um,
does that not
yeah,
take place?
okay. Um, he is crowned emperor in 1081 by his anti-pope Clement,
Okay.
um, in a way that Gregory will never recognize.
Mm,
Um, Other people do recognize it, um, and say so. And at the time of Gregory's death in 1085, so he's kind of Henry's winning, and Gregory's out, and people have Gregory is isolated politically, and um, uh, having said that, there are ways in which the Saxon rebellion fatally undermines Henry's authority and the authority of his family.
mm,
Um, and so, yeah, um, and and they, and again, but back to the 19th century and Bismarck, and but kind of the Bismarck sense that the German nation has been weakened by the humiliation of Canossa,
hmm,
and so it needs to. I mean, his own campaign, Bismarck's against the Catholic Church in the newly unified Germany, and yeah, the kind of um, the papacy and the church kind of damage the German state. It's not the Pope, it's the Saxons who've
mm.
weakened the German emperorship. Um, and there's going to be some powerful emperors after Henry, Frederick Barbarossa in the second half of the 12th century, Frederick II. But there are ways in which they never entirely recoup the damage that the Saxon rebels did to them. And so again,
Wow.
that's one where, as were it's not the legacy of Canossa strictly, but it's back to the triangulation. It's the internal um, kind of tension and crisis within Germany that has a kind of longer legacy. Um,
Wow. And so we throw in, and which we won't do now, but right, we throw in the Avignon papacy, we throw in the
no.
Crusade, we throw all the
Uh-huh,
the rest of that into the mix. It's
uh-huh,
enough to keep somebody busy for a while, right? Just trying to be able to connect the dots and understand the story,
for real.
which is a large part of why we enjoy doing this podcast and why we enjoy being able to visit with people like yourself who have put time and energy into this to help us understand these various things throughout Christian history and kind of how things ended up, right? And so
Hmm.
maybe you've shown us today why maybe Voltaire was right? Or maybe why this was the Holy Roman Empire was neither holy nor Roman nor an empire, right? I mean, so I
Yeah,
think I
yeah.
think you've thrown a few logs on that fire today in our conversation that helps us to understand those things, to do things. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much
Please.
for your scholarship and your efforts and interest in what all we're doing. I know our audience is going to appreciate very much being able to connect and to know more.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really enjoyed
Absolutely.
it and I hope I've been helpful. Yeah,
Oh,
thank
very
you.
much.
Yeah.
And folks,
Okay.
don't forget if you'd like to follow us on all of our social media, you can find all of that back on our website and continue to not only watch the full, as you wish, the full episodes here of our conversations, but also to follow us on the podcast, on Spotify, and on Apple as well. Thank you.